Welcome back to the Erica Show. My name is Erica from Crypto Soul. Through the Erica Show, we connect with significant, promising builders in the blockchain space. 안녕하세요. 크립토 서울 대표 에리카입니다. 오늘은 디파이계의 사토시라고 불리는 YV 토큰을 만든 장본인 안드레 크론예님을 모셨습니다. I'm incredibly humbled to welcome today's guest, the architect of Yearn, and the major contributor to the DeFi world, king of yield farming, Andre Cronje. First of all, thank you so much for taking your busy time to talk with me and to the Crypto Soul community. Welcome to the show. Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
That's an incredibly energetic introduction, probably the nicest I've had, so thank you very much.
I tried my best, and I thought you deserved a grand intro.
Actually, wait, let's see, how much can I remember? 감사합니다?
감사합니다. Thank you.
감사합니다. That's
안녕하세요. 안녕하세요.
Yeah.
Means hello. Yes, so you pronounced it correctly.
I'm trying to remember the few terms I still remember, so.
If they pop up during the interview, please feel free to just blurt them out. I'll correct. Okay. So I know there's a reason why you cannot do video calls, and I understand totally. But you're in the middle of COVID, and you're in South Africa. Is that Cape Town, right?
Correct.
You're in Cape Town.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Cape Town.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think your voice is clear enough. So we're gonna concentrate on the content. And I know you participated in so many contents like podcasts recently, and I watched most of them. And a lot of questions have been asked or answered. But this interview is mostly geared towards the Asian community, especially the Korean community. So it's a little different on that end, I guess. And many people in Asian community are still not familiar with the DeFi trend or Yearn even. They've heard about the keyword, but they're not really entirely understanding the entire world. It's a little complicated for their understanding, I think. And knowledge transfer is crucial, and I think you're a great person to share your knowledge with. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And I still am kind of in the DeFi buzz of DeFi words. It's just really complicated, so it'll be wonderful to hear from you. And yeah, so thank you so much. And to begin with, could you?
Well, actually, if I may, because this is something I've been trying to unpack now, because I'm trying to understand why Koreans aren't a big player in the DeFi space. Now I understand language barrier is probably predominantly one, but I mean there's a large overlap in DeFi community and gaming communities, and I mean Koreans are clearly dominant in terms of online gaming communities, even if language barriers were present.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit confused why Korea isn't dominating the DeFi space, and I've been wondering if it's because of inaccessibility of something like the Korean won as an on-ramp into DeFi, because everything is USD based, but I don't think so, because even originally with base crypto trading, what was it called again? The was it kimchi premium? I think.
Kimchi premium.
Anyway, that doesn't matter. Yeah. So I'd actually like some insights if I can be as rude as to ask, why do you think we haven't seen the Korean communities come into DeFi yet? Because it seems perfect for them. It's money games.
Yes, definitely. Actually, so there are many people who in the community who are interested in DeFi, what's happening, and they do contribute, they do support, and they also participate. But in terms of creation of new protocols and new products and services, I think many in the Korean community, Korean industry are very cautious due to the regulations, right? I think, these days, the Korean regulation regarding crypto has the framework has been much more, I guess, manifest now. It's becoming clearer and clearer. And I think in no time, maybe next year or so, there may be some like crypto tax implemented. It's confirmed, right? So it's the framework is daunting on them, I think, and they don't want to be too, I guess, challenging to the government framework. So I think they're being a little cautious with it, and I think that may be the main reason. And then also the language barrier, as you mentioned, is definitely big because there's not many really good content in Korean language. It's beginning right now. It's being in many, like DeFi Seoul. There's a community called DeFi Seoul, and they're doing an amazing job in introducing the newest protocols. And I participated in 2 in a row, and they did introduce Yearn recently, and in local language, which is great. But so far, I think it has been lacking of local content and local ambassadors. Yeah. So I think, and also another fact is that most Koreans do not follow Twitter much, and most of the crypto talk is very fast paced in Twitter, and I am starting to be in the storm of crypto Twitter talks, and for me even it's hard to follow, and especially for the ordinary investor it may be really difficult to translate and then also follow 24/7, right? So I think there are many factors. Yeah, it's a mix of different factors, I think, but yeah.
I'll talk and see if I can see what I can do on that side.
That would be amazing. And, on our end, we are trying our best as well with DeFi Seoul community. And there's several good communities. So we're trying our best to follow up. And this is one of them, right? I posted that, I'm having an interview with you, and they were super excited. They're like, oh, God, Andre. They were like super excited to talk, to hear from you. So yeah, it's definitely monumental for me and for the community. So yeah. Okay. I know. Oh, yeah. So let's dive in now to the content. I know it's really difficult to talk in like simplistic terms, but for the language barrier, if you can, and could you explain what Yearn is? This is the step 1. What Yearn is and what the system generally does, and can you go through the process like one by one, if possible, like step by step?
Yeah, so Yearn is no different than a bank account. It's a savings account. So when you open your account at Hana and you go put your Korean won in it, they give you an interest rate. And the reason they give you that interest rate is because they're actually taking that money that you put in the account, and then they go invest it in local businesses or import export, or they use that money to make more money. And that's how they generate yield, and they give you that back into your account. Now, Yearn's exactly the same, except it does it in the digital Ethereum space. Right, so you deposit your stable coins, or your ETH, or your BTC, whatever it is you have in your native wallet, and you deposit it into the system, and it acts like a savings account. It takes that money to the place where it can get the highest yield, and it rewards you with that yield. And it's really as simplistic as that. The secret is in knowing what is the best opportunity to currently pursue, which one is giving you the highest rate, where should you be deploying this capital to maximize the returns, but still doing it in a safe manner, because as we know, there's also lots of opportunities to lose money if you don't know what you're doing. So Yearn's objective was always taking this complex knowledge that you need from being in this space 24/7, and then codifying that to a point where when you put your money in the bank, you're trusting a money manager. There's a human being that has access to your money and can deploy that capital. In Yearn's case, there's just code. So you're just trusting the code to do it for you. I do not need to interact with the system. None of the people working at Yearn right now need to interact with the system. and Yearn itself is really that simplistic. Now within the Yearn umbrella, there's a lot of other products as well that are not necessarily as simplistic as Yearn, but I think that's a good place to sort of start and take the conversation from there. So Yearn you can just think of as a intelligent Ethereum-based savings account.
It's automatic. Is it like right? Is it automatic? Like
yeah.
meaning,
well,
it runs by code. That's
correct.
why. Yeah, awesome.
And it's just code talking to code.
Yes. Is Yearn the name, like, where did it come from? Like, it's pronounced Yearn, right? Is it correct? Yearn.
Yeah. So originally the very first name was I earn for I earn money, and then that changed to you earn. So Y earn money, you earn money, and it had a nice play on the English word to yearn, which is longing for something. So it just sort of naturally evolved into that. So
to
now it's
yearn. Oh, it's the verb yearn. Got it. That has a history, because there's so many words with the Y in front. yvaults, yearn. You know, it's very complicated. Okay. And there's the token called wifey. Is that correct? Or wifey? Wifey.
There's lots of different pronunciations.
What is the correct one?
When I originally, well, no, the community has decided it's wifey, so I also call it wifey. Okay. But when I originally built it, it was Wi-Fi. But community decided it's wifey, so now it's wifey.
Wifey, yes. I looked at the interview and they're like, oh, it's wifey. So okay, wifey token. Could you explain the role of the token in the protocol?
So the original Yearn, which I refer to as version 1, so the V1 Yearn, was a much more simplistic system. So when I say simplistic, the data available on chain was a lot more easy to digest. So what Yearn V1 did is it looked at there's a bunch of different lending protocols. So you have Compound, you have Aave, you have DYDX, and it would look at these protocols and it would see which one gives me the best interest rates. And then if Aave gave better interest rates than Compound, it would move the money from Compound to Aave. So it could do everything on chain. When synthetics started doing their incentivized liquidity, so you would take your stable coins and you would stake it in synthetics and they would reward you with SNX. It meant that more information was required than what was available on chain. So now you could no longer just decide Compound is giving me the best interest rates. You had to decide how much am I getting if I get this SNX token, and how much does that compare? But the problem with that is the SNX token price isn't on chain. So now that data is no longer available. And then Compound came out with their Comp token, and then Balancer came out with their Bell token, and MStable came out with MTA. So there was just, currently there exists so many different yield opportunities that it's not possible for just the on-chain code to decide. They still do 99% of the work, but they need something external that still tells them, hey, this is the price here, or hey, this is the better strategy. So something has to give that external input into the Yearn system to maximize its own yield. Now for up until July, I was the person doing that. So I was inputting that information, but I realized that the system can't scale if I keep doing that. So I needed to create a mechanism whereby I could get other people like me who are as involved in the system and who pay as close attention and are studying up, that can provide this data, but also in a potentially malicious environment. So you know, if there's I can't have someone giving this data that then gives false data, and then that causes the system to be exploited. So it still needs to be Sybil resistant, and it still needs to be Byzantine fault tolerant. So for those two reasons, I needed to create some kind of decision-making system that allowed multiple parties to be able to provide this input, and at the same time veto if the input provided was incorrect. And to facilitate that, I launched the Wi-Fi token, and the Wi-Fi token is the governance token, specifically of this part of the protocol. So it allows these people to input this information, and the token is their share weight. So that's how much does your input matter in the ecosystem. And if someone else tries to put some other information in, how big is your say to stop them from doing it? And that's really all the token is supposed to do. So the feedback loop there, though, is that the system itself, the Yearn system, earns quite a bit of money. So it's earning about $100,000 per day just from the yield it generates in the ecosystem. And that is paid out to the Wi-Fi token holders. So the feedback loop there is the better yield strategies they create, the more profit they get. So they're incentivized to keep improving how the system generates the yield so that they get better results. LPs, liquidity providers, people that put their money into the savings account, they're happy because they get better yields and they don't have to do anything. And that's really the Wi-Fi token. It facilitates the role to match these three parties in the ecosystem so that they're all, happy with each other.
Awesome. Oh, that's very clear understanding. So the token price really skyrocketed, and I was shocked to see the price. What does that tell us about this? The three players that you, the three, I guess, players that you just said. Like, what does it say? How can you explain this token price going up?
So. This is not something I would normally comment on because I don't like talking about the price.
Okay.
But on a theoretical point, there's two things I will mention. One, as mentioned, the token gives access to cash flow, and this isn't you staking and you're getting more of the same token, which is just dilution of the token. This is real revenue that the protocol is generating, and the token gives you a claim on that revenue. So that's already different than most other systems. If we look at most of the systems currently that claim revenue, Compound claims X amount of revenue, Aave claims the revenue, Uniswap claims revenue, but none of that is actually revenue. That's going to the people providing collateral or the people providing money. And that's separate. Those people still get yield, and then money goes to token holders as revenue. So that sets sort of a base evaluation model for the ecosystem, because by owning one of the token, you have access to currently 100,000 rand a day, so 365,000. $36 million a year. And if you look at normal share structure evaluations, they normally look at your share value is equal to about, let's say, 20 years in returns. So then already you're talking about, 36 million times XP ratio, etc. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is the token itself is a security mechanism. So the protocol has over $1 billion worth of assets in it. So, and that token gives you control over $1 billion worth of assets. Not necessarily in a malicious way, but still in terms of you can decide where it goes. So if you start having let's say, and this is purely hypothetical, but let's say Balancer decided they want that liquidity to come into their ecosystem, then they need to have a majority say in what the token is. Now, if the token collectively, is trading at $1 and there's 30,000 of it, it's going to cost them $30,000 to be able to redirect $1 billion towards their system. So there's also a certain consideration in terms of how much the token should be valued to create this to create the security mechanism on top of this capital. So from a purely logical evaluation point of view, I would probably say those are the two factors. But more realistically, the crypto market is entirely based on hype and memes and no fundamentals. So it had a lot of hype. It had lots of people talking about it. It was all over Twitter, and so people kept buying it. That's probably the more logical answer,
Okay.
and it's probably the more accurate one. But yeah, if I had to wager an opinion, then I would say it's probably those two fundamental factors.
Yeah, I was asking for a theoretical answer, so I did not also care about the price at all. It has been, the talk of the, the community, so I just had to, ask about it. Yeah. And I was also interested in the concept of yvaults. Could you explain about yvaults and what inspired you to start yvaults?
So yvaults are just the next iteration of Yearn. I call them version 2, so they're V2 Yearn. Now, as a little bit earlier, I mentioned now you had all of these new tokens. You had Comp, you had Bell, you had MTA, you have Curve, and there's new ones coming out every single day. And all of these offer very high yield opportunities. And they're the next iteration on the original vaults that were just lending yield hunting. But now strategies can start becoming a lot more complex. So where previously I would just take something like USDC and put it in compound and then earn an interest rate on that. Now you can take USDC into compound, borrow DAI, provide DAI on Curve, and farm the Curve token. So all of a sudden it's a lot more complex strategy. And the vaults are specifically to address those types of extremely complex strategies. But at the same time, they within their code guidelines allow these strategies to be fairly mutable so that they can change to a different strategy if one is better. And that's really all the yvaults are. So they're a more intelligent version of the V1s. They allow a lot more complex strategies, which is why their yield is also higher. And they're just a natural iteration of the market. If we see new things coming out, maybe there will be a V3 as well.
Yes. And you keep building so much, and we're all wondering do you ever sleep? But I'll ask that later. Many people applaud you for being a true builder, and my show only introduces great builders in this space. But having little greed and no VC involvement, no show, and it's very rare to find these types of people around. What do you think inspires you to build? And I know you keep building even now. Do you expect anything out of building Yearn in the longer run? What's the ultimate, I guess, picture that you wanted to draw in terms of Yearn?
I have no vision. I have no plans. I have no goals. I always tell people I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught up to a car. So I wake up in the morning. I look at what's going on in the ecosystem. If I see a problem, I try and fix it. Maybe for now it's fun. Maybe in a month from now it's no longer fun and I go back to playing Warcraft or something. I don't know. But there's no bigger picture. People always want there to be some grand plan, but really it's just I see a problem, I fix a problem.
Oh, no, I totally understand. But yeah, you're just executing what you see as a problem and you try to fix it. I totally respect that. Yeah, that's totally wonderful. That's what everyone should do, right?
Because I don't want to build just for the sake of building. There's a lot of people that just build because they're expected to build, and I don't like that. So and that's why I built V1 Yearn back in Jan, Feb, March, and then there wasn't much happening in the space, so I stopped building until probably early June, July, because then there was a need again. Because then Compound released and there was a need for another yield solution. So then I was building that, and then Yearn scaled very quickly to over $1 billion. So I needed to start looking at ways for it to scale. So I started looking at alternative systems I can build, and now I'm building those. But realistically, when I'm done with the stuff I'm building now, then I've addressed the needs, and then I'll go back to not really building much. So I'm the yield Batman. I'll be there when it's required, but I'll be gone when it's not.
Perfect for a meme. Okay, so recently there was exciting news. Yearn released Stable Credit, and it's co-developing with the Aave team. Can you run through, in simple terms if possible, how it runs and how it can be applied?
Okay, so this one's a little bit difficult to do
simplistic,
proper simplistic, but I'll break down its three core components at least. So at its base layer, it replicates what MakerDAO does with DAI. So MakerDAO allows you to take ETH, you then deposit ETH into the Maker system, and it sees, okay, the ETH price is currently worth, let's say, $400. It allows you, for simplicity's sake, to draw up to 50% credit. And then you mint DAI equal to $200, which is the 50% credit. So the thing about DAI is it's actually debt, because you're borrowing it against your asset. So you can think of it as a very simplistic lender. And so that's just the MakerDAO DAI part. Then the next level, and I'll explain how they come together just now. Then on the next level, we have a lender, like Compound or like Aave. And they allow you to continuing with the ETH example, they allow you to deposit the ETH into the system, and then they say, okay, that's worth $400, so you have 50% debt that you're allowed to do. But now instead of minting DAI, I can borrow USDC. So I might now borrow $200 USDC. But the model still works exactly the same. It just allows more collateral to choose from. Now at its base layer, Stable Credit still just replicates this concept where you provide ETH. It then allows you to mint DAI, or in this case, SCUSD, Stable Credit USD. And SCUSD is debt in the ecosystem. So now with this debt, you can borrow any other collateral that anyone else provided into this ecosystem. So if someone else came in and they put in link tokens, then I can use my SCUSD to borrow those link tokens. So at a comparative level, there's no difference here than MakerDAO or something like Aave or something like Compound. The big difference comes in is that it's a completely permissionless, decentralized, ungoverned system. So in something like Aave or Compound or Maker, the MKR holders or the comp holders or the lender holders need to decide what collateral do they allow. And if they allow that collateral, at what collateralization ratio do they allow it? So, sometimes you can get 30% of the dollar value, other times you can get 90% of the dollar value. And they do this by doing risk assessments. And then the last thing is they create interest rate models that dictates, okay, how much are you paying to borrow this, or how much are you getting to provide it as a lender? This solution automates all of that. So there's no one that needs to say what collateral can go in. There's no one that needs to say what the collateral ratio is. All of that is calculated based on the system. And in something like Compound or Maker or Aave, you also need third parties to run liquidations. So external systems have to liquidate people when their position is no longer collateralized. Because Stable Credit uses an AMM, an automated market maker like Uniswap underneath, it's constantly rebalancing your position. So there's no single big liquidation event. There's just constantly little bits being taken off or being added onto your credit. So that's really trying to keep it as simple as possible. You know, the big difference there. So you can think of it just as a new type of lender with tokenized debt, but it comes with a few nice side effects in that it creates a truly permissionless decentralized stablecoin, which is nice as a start. It allows a new kind of borrowing, which is based on a purchase premium or discount dependent on the asset that you're adding or selling into the system. So there's no rolling interest rates. When I borrow a link, I'm not paying every second to borrow the link. I'm actually buying it, and then when I'm repaying it, I'm actually selling it into the ecosystem. So there's a bunch of tiny little caveats like that make it very different to the current solutions. But if you take sort of a bird's eye view, it looks very much just like a normal lending solution or like a stablecoin solution.
I just threw this entire time. I was like jotting down. I think I did a pretty good job. But yeah, perfect explanation. Thanks so much. I noticed that you're trying to speak slowly for me, so thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So I know, no doubt, but you're in the middle of this DeFi storm, and I know it's been crazy for you, but what is your general view on this current explosion / kind of madness in the DeFi space? I mean, some say there's too much noise. The pool is like a game of the whales, and there's some criticism about caution about it. Do you still see a healthy movement? I mean, you're fixing things, so I guess you do see some healthy movements. But in general, do you see a constructive movement other than what you're building, in general?
From the core teams, yes. So Compound is still doing fantastic work in terms of things like on-chain governance and expanding that to be more accessible. Aave is doing great work with their V2 that they're releasing, and they'll be tokenizing a bunch of different systems. We're seeing a lot of good work happening in the NFT space with projects like Rarible, Axie Infinity, Meme. So I think yes, there is positivity if you sort of look underneath all the garbage. The problem is the pile of garbage has gotten so big that you really have to look hard, because you've got these food tokens are all complete scams. Like anything that is related to any kind of food, and I should qualify. I don't mean they're scams in the sense that they're trying to be malicious, but they're basically. I'm trying to look for an equivalent here. So just when mobile phones came out, and well, not mobile, when mobile apps started coming out, everyone was building a mobile app. Yep. And it didn't matter what the company was. Company ABC was building a mobile app because they decided they needed a mobile app because everyone was building a mobile app. So millions of companies ended up building these pointless mobile apps, and they tried to shove it down our throats because everyone else was doing it. And we're sort of in that same phase now where everyone thinks they need a token, and everyone thinks they need a yield farm, and everyone thinks they need one of these solutions when really they're just wasting everyone's attention span. Because the problem that I do see with all of these, I call them flash farms popping up, is that they really drain people's attention span, and they make it even more difficult for someone looking from the outside to take the DeFi movement seriously, because now now when you come in as a potential interested investor that might actually want to look for some of these opportunities, you first have to read about sushi vampire attacks and pickle farms and I don't know what else we have going on. And like when you read that, you're immediately going to think this is not a credible space. So right now, I don't think we're in a healthy situation. But if you're connected enough into the core teams and what they're doing, then I'll definitely say it's still positive. And I still have very high hopes for the next 6 months to a year from now. But I do think all of this yield farming garbage probably set us back a good 3 to 6 months, if not more. And that's discounting the reputational damage it did. So I'm not ecstatic about the current market perception, but in terms of the fundamentals of what's happening underneath, I'm still very, very positive.
Would you say that is your biggest concern regarding DeFi, like the appearance of these like many garbage?
Well, so if we look at ICOs, right? ICO right now, if you were to tell someone you're doing an ICO, it's immediately, it has a very negative mental connotation. When someone tells you ICO, the immediate response is like, ew, why would you do that? But at the same time, the idea of an ICO, the conceptual idea and why it was originally created was very good.
Yeah.
And it was a new kind of financing model. It opened it up for a more retail-based system instead of a VC system. But we very quickly see it get abused and turn into something that now we treat with a certain level of disdain. And if I were to say my biggest concern right now is that in 3 months from now, that's how people are going to think about DeFi. They're going to think, oh, it's just this thing where you play with food tokens and then you have 10,000% APY and it's just whales making more and more money. And if that happens, we failed. Then we didn't create a new kind of financial primitive. So I'd say that's probably my biggest concern at this point. But that I'll qualify in that even though we considered ICOs kind of bad, all of the projects we have today that are big names did come out of ICOs. Synthetics, Aave, Bancor, and even the projects that built alongside them, things like Compound that only recently released a token, or Uniswap, they also came from that time and that innovation. So while we might look back at DeFi and think that was a failure, something new might come out of that. But that'll remain to be seen. But yeah, I'm more worried about public perception right now than I am about any technological risks or flaws.
To look on the bright side, like in Korea recently, there's this security company called SK Securities. It's a mainstream, from the financial industry, and they just released a report on DeFi trend, and it was not entirely negative, right? So that caused quite a stir. I mean, that was like, wow, this mainstream, financial company, they released a report. Awesome. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. It was on the news, people were very excited about it. So yeah, I guess on the bright side, there is some attention, positive attention actually towards the DeFi trend. So I would say it's not entirely negative as well. But it is still unstable. And in order for this unstable DeFi market to step up to the next level, to a little bit more stability, I guess, what do you think are necessary to take place? I mean, there must be many holes that you have to fix, but what do you think are necessary in your opinion?
So DeFi right now isn't very scalable. And the reason for that is because it's very capital inefficient. So if you look at an asset like let's take dye. There's so many dye is in so many different places. There's a little bit of dye in Compound. There's a little bit of dye in Uniswap, and then even in Uniswap, you know, some of the dye is in dye Uni, the rest is in dye Comp, some of it is in dye ETH. So it's so fragmented that there just isn't enough pooled liquidity to really be able to scale this ecosystem. So if someone wanted to come in now as a large organization and put, you know, let's say $2 billion into the system would crash. It can't handle that amount of liquidity. So for now, I definitely think, and that's why I'm looking at a lot of solutions that can consolidate liquidity or that can scale lending higher, because we're not capable of facilitating large sums of capital at this point. If you were to take a $500 million of USDT right now and you go put that into Aave, the yield is going to drop from 4 to 5% to 0.1%, because there's not enough demand on the borrowing side either, because there's not enough outlets happening. So the other thing that needs to happen along with scalability is there needs to become more products and derivatives. So we need to see things like on-chain perpetual contracts. We need to see options. We need to see leverage trading. But for those to happen, we need to be a lot more capital efficient, and that's not 100% possible right now. Because you can't have leverage positions. You know, a reason why capital is efficient outside of DeFi is because you have fractional reserve lending. So a bank, you know, they can reuse 90% of their money as a leveraged position because they only need to have 5 to 10% actually on hand. But in DeFi, you can't do that because you have to have 100% collateralized positions at all times. So I'm not really sure how we're going to solve that. It's probably one of the things that's taking up most of my time currently. But that's what we need to address to actually make the system efficiently scalable.
True. Oh, yes. You need big players and big frameworks, complicated products. Okay. So much to be done. It's still premature. So I think it's just nascent, right? So it's just beginning. Yes. And you briefly mentioned just previously about the Uni launch. And I saw on your Twitter about your opinions on it, but what is your a take on it? The timing did seem pretty interesting, and Uniswap is definitely one of the key players and legitimate players. But I mean, the timing was quite interesting, right? What is your thought on that? And yeah, I think the community is also curious about it.
Yeah, look, now I need to qualify this is 100% my opinion because Uniswap gave a lot of people free money, and when you give a lot of people free money, you build a very, very aggressive community. Yes. So every time I make any comment towards Uniswap, I'm normally immediately met by people that say, oh, I'm just jealous, or oh, I'm upset, or oh, I'm unhappy, or oh, I'm a bag holder, or something. So I just want to qualify and get that out of the way so that they can calm down with regards to anything I'm about to say. But yes, point number one was I was expecting Uniswap to launch a token, definitely. But I was also expecting them to launch a token along with their version 3 launch, because they've been hyping up their version 3 launch, and they've been talking about their version 3 launch for the last 2 months, the whole time. And Hayden and all of the guys have been doing a lot of work on Twitter to get people very excited about version 3. So it makes sense that a token would happen with version 3. They also only recently announced that they closed their investor round. Now, you wouldn't launch a token this quickly after closing your investor round. So my first concern was that this was very clearly a premature launch as a response to sushi, and that I think was a bad move. I don't think they should have done that. and we'll see how it plays out for them. But I don't think it was a good move. The second thing where I've had a lot of concern over is that they, and when I say they, I mean the investors and team, by far control the majority of all of the tokens. So it is right now almost impossible for the community to participate in governance. You right now you need 1% of the total token supply, not circulating, total. So that means you need 10 million tokens, just to be able to propose a vote, not to actually vote, just to say, hey, I would like to vote on this. So I don't know what the price is right now, but last I checked it was around $6. So you need $60 million just to be able to go, hey, can we please vote on this? Now they came back to me and they said, okay, but look, you don't actually need 10 million tokens. You just need people to delegate to you. So they need to delegate so that you can reach this 10 million tokens. To which I went onto Twitter and I said, okay, then delegate to me. Come on, people, give me your tokens. Because on the one hand, I am of the opinion that I won't be able to get to 10 million, which proves the point. And like not to be too facetious about it, but you know, if I can't reach 10 million, I really doubt someone else is going to be able to reach 10 million. So point one is to show that it can't actually happen. And if I am wrong, which I'll gracefully accept, and I do reach 10 million, then at least I can propose a vote to decrease it from 10 million to 1 million, so that at least other people can participate into the ecosystem. But those are really my two primary complaints. I mean, I wish onto the Uniswap team all success. They've been one of the most hardworking, consistent builders through all of this time. Like honestly, they deserve it. I'm not for 1 second complaining about their financial success that came from this or the fantastic launch, because I do think they did the launch itself well. I've been recorded in quite a few podcasts saying that if I were to launch another YV token today, it would be retrospective and as a surprise. And I think they nailed both of those two. But I just, from everything I've seen from the Uniswap team, you know, they've been the ones to stay very calm all this time and just focus on their own pace and focus on building themselves. So them coming out as a rushed response to someone else, I thought was not the right move. And then their current tokenomic structure, which again, I'll qualify, I don't actually have a problem with the tokenomic structure, because if you look at something like Compound, it's also primarily the VCs and the team that control it, but they've never tried to say it's anything otherwise. They've been very public about this. Versus with Uniswap, there's a very much, it's a community-driven project narrative. And I just want to make it clear, no, it's not. It's a team and VC-driven narrative, which, again, nothing wrong with it, because the team and VCs probably know better and can make more informed decisions at this point in any case, but it's important that people know those facts. It's very easy to be very happy when you get something for free, but it's still important to understand what comes with the little terms and conditions when you sign up.
Of course. So what happened to the delegator? The story. Are you the delegator now, or what happened?
No.
To it?
I managed to get like 300,000 tokens delegated to me. It's climbed up quite a bit in the last 2 days. So I'm at 2 million now, but I'm still very, very far away from 10 million. I just don't see it happening.
Got it. So it's kind of like an experiment, I guess. Like just I guess. So it was really funny. Yeah, well, so I was like, I want to follow up. Awesome. Okay, next question. So you currently work on on-chain protocols, but I'm curious whether you're working on protocols that can be applied in the real world, like in a different way. Like if not, then what sort of protocols do you think seem applicable to the real world? I mean, to the real world means a little bit subjective, but yeah. That's what community was asking. Do you understand the question?
I probably not, but I'm going to answer how I thought it is meant.
Okay.
I don't think there is applicability. That's my first statement. Now people always say, you know, blockchain will revolutionize the world. No, it won't. And then they say decentralized finance will change the way we do finance. No, it won't. And then they try and tell you that this will be a new world order. No, it won't. What I normally try and tell people is, you know, if I always like, I used to be a very avid World of Warcraft gamer. Now, if you play in World of Warcraft, you know, there's rules, there's an economy, there's gold that I use to buy stuff and sell stuff and upgrade stuff. And something like Ethereum and DeFi is exactly the same. It's its own little game where you can buy stuff and sell stuff and interact with other people. So people always like to think that it's going to be this bridge between, let's say, a Korean or a South African economy. Now, there's a reason I know nothing about the legislation, so I'm probably horribly wrong about everything I'm going to say now, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. So there's a reason why, you know, as a Korean citizen, you can't go to a car dealership and give them Bitcoin and then get a car. That's because the rules and legislations don't allow you to accept Bitcoin. But now you can argue, okay, but eventually it will allow you to accept Bitcoin. But so then let's ignore Bitcoin. And in South Africa, we work with rands, South African rands. So now you also can't go to that car dealer. So in Korea still, you go to the car dealer and you tell him, okay, but here is South African rands. He's also not going to be able to accept that. So South African rands, which is a valid currency and used in an entire country, is not accepted, just like Bitcoin. But there might be rules and legislation that allow South African rands to be used via some forex system. Now blockchain is exactly the same. Blockchain, think of it as a country. It's its own country with its own rules. The only difference is its rules are codified. They're not legislative in nature, and it has its own money that transfers between hands. And some countries might create treaties. So, you know, I can go to Namibia, and which is a country right next to South Africa. I can go there and spend my South African rands because there's rules about how the rands are allowed to work between the two different countries, and that might happen. But you always have to consider blockchain as its own little country that exists in its own world with its own legislation and its own, you know, democracy and rulership and all of those different things. So just like, so that question to me, if I were to translate it, is basically, let's say there's a bunch of development happening in my country now, South Africa, and then how will the developments in South Africa affect the real world? You know, how will it affect Korea or the US or China? And it's not going to affect it because it's going to be localized to our country. Now, every so often, there might be an export that is cool and that is useful to someone else, but it's not going to be life-changing. It's just going to be a new way to interact with these systems. So, you know, just like the economy in World of Warcraft doesn't affect your daily life, the blockchain is also not really going to affect your daily life. But if you're a player, then, you know, you're going to have fun while you do it. Yeah,
totally. I mean, we have always thought that we're in this little blockchain world, but yeah, that proves it. I mean, that emphasizes, your argument emphasizes my entire, you know, thoughts. And I think I'm already in this bubble, right? Blockchain bubble. So I guess it's true. Oh, yes. Thank you. That's great. Okay, next question. It's maybe a silly question, but there was a poll on who sleeps the least. That was the poll, exactly. And there was Vitalik, there was you, there was some other people, and you were like predominantly number one. You were like number one, like over 50%. And yeah, so thinking of that, I was like, this is the exact question that I should ask you. Do you sleep? How long do you sleep? Because actually the Korean community was curious because you tweet all the time. You're online. I mean, you're just all everywhere, and you build all the time. So we're kind of concerned at the same time, like you should get some sleep, and you're always online. So do you sleep like these days? Like you say you sleep very little, but how much do you sleep, and what's your average daily schedule these days? I'm sure it's crazy, but yeah, really curious.
I mean, what I probably between 4 to 5 hours sleep a day, but that's sufficient. So I get up around 1 a.m., 2 a.m. South African time, which is Central European time. And the reason for that is I actually have a lot of partners in Korea and in Australia and in China. So I have to be up early to work with them in any case.
Wow.
And then I'll normally work until about 11 to 12 p.m. Eastern European time. So then I normally have like a 1 or 2 hour nap, because then everything is quiet, because the Eastern communities are after 5 p.m. then, and the Western American communities haven't woken up yet, and the European communities are in lunch. So then I'll sleep for like 2 to 3 hours. And then I'll normally wake up again, because then I start working with my US partners. So then I'll do some work there until like 9, 10 p.m. And then I'll sleep until like 1 a.m. and then repeat the cycle.
Wow. It's like a trader. Like I used to be an equity trader, and it's like a very accurate time. Yeah.
I've learned from trading and social activity when it's safe to sort of sleep. And I use those times to my advantage.
Very good, very good. But it's not that bad. 4 or 5 hours, not so bad. And another, sufficient. Yes. Another silly question that the Korean community asked, and we're concerned about, was what was the most delicious food that you ate recently? That's an actual question. Like they were like. And they're smart people. I mean, I'm not like joking with you. They're really smart people, but they really were curious. Like, what have you eaten recently that you found fascinating? And because there are other joys in life, and just wanted to.
So I've been in lockdown now since Feb, and when I'm at home, I don't particularly spend a lot of time on making food. So it's basically for nutrition purposes. I haven't really had any good meals since then. But I just before I came back to South Africa in February, I was in Seoul since December. So I guess the last proper good meal that I can actually remember was, I don't remember the restaurant, but there's this really nice Korean barbecue place there at Walker Hill, Walker Hill Vista, just at the bottom. They've got some really fantastic marinated ribs there. So I would, if I were to think, that's probably the last proper like good meal I had.
In February, I mean before February. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was about January.
Well. Hang in there. It's getting there. We're almost done, I think. Right? COVID is almost, let's hang in there. And also another question was, what other interests besides DeFi? I think you mentioned World of Warcraft, but outside of DeFi, maybe in the blockchain space, do you have any other interesting, projects that you look at, or any other random topics that you look at outside of DeFi currently?
So I not currently, no. So I get hyper focused on something. So right now I'm hyper focused on DeFi, and it's getting all of my attention and focus. But before that I was so in between stopping dev in around March and picking it up in July. I was very avid back into World of Warcraft, and I started pushing my keys so that I can get World Top 100, which I managed to get. I actually wanted Top 30, but I didn't have enough time. But yeah, mostly gaming. I'm a very avid gamer. Was second in the world Counter-Strike. Have a bunch of world records in Guild Wars, and Guild Wars 2. So that's where I put my time and energy when I'm not coding.
Oh, you could be a professional in that field as well.
I don't know if I'm good enough today still to be a professional, but I was when I could dedicate the amount of time. So
Right. Wow. Okay, that's cool. And I was looking through your, data, and you were in the Phantom project. I did not know that before. I was like so fascinated because like I hosted a meetup with the Phantom team, right? Back in Korea. That was a long time ago, by the way. But yeah, I definitely know the Phantom team very well. And many people think you suddenly came to this space, but you've been building all this time along, right? You've been building in other spaces as well. Are you still like contributing to the project, or are you like in touch with the project? I'm just curious.
I still chat to the team on a daily basis. I'm very involved in the current DeFi solution that they're launching, Phantom Finance. Trying to bring a lot of what I'm doing on ETH onto the Phantom ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, I've been heavily involved with them for the last, probably almost 3 years now. I helped co-author their original consensus papers, helped build the chain that is now Opera, proposed Phantom Finance, which we're building out now. So I'm still, I mean, I'm technically just an advisor, but I'm working with the team on a daily basis.
Wow. Oh, it's more involved than I thought. And speaking of like Phantom building out its DeFi product, many people from other chains, they were asking this question that work on other blockchain projects. What do you think it will take to see Ethereum-like DeFi ecosystems to grow on other chains? Like, what do you think it will take? Because it's based on Ethereum these days, but on other blockchains, like, what do you think it will take?
So it really requires 4 main things, I would say.
Okay.
The number one is it requires assets. So, there has to be something I want to work with. So there should be a USDT or a DAI or a MKR token or whatever it is, but there has to be something that I want to interact with. Number 2, there has to be a protocol that I can use this asset in. So, there needs to be a lender like a Ava, or there needs to be a trading platform like a Uniswap. Then number 3 would be more on the developer side, and this is more personal for developers. So that number 1, the tooling has to be easy. It needs MetaMask, it needs Etherscan, it needs Remix and IDEs and these development tools. And then number 4, which is important for the builders, is I really think it needs to be Solidity compatible. So if I and that's why Phantom as an example is 100% EVM compatible, because I want to be able to take the same code I wrote for Ethereum and go deploy it on the other system. I don't want to have to relearn a language and rebuild it from scratch. I want to reuse what I have. So it's a big reason. If we look at the internet age as well, the protocols that worked were the ones that allowed you to be on a code level interoperable with each other. If you told me I can use your API, but I need to learn this whole new language and this whole new structure, I'm not going to use your system. It's that simplistic, because I have no reason to build there. So if I do build there, it should at least be very easy for me to just migrate my stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd say those are the 4 pillars that are very important if you want to play in this DeFi space as well. And if you don't have those, work on getting them as quickly as possible. But you'll need to do them in that order.
Oh, absolutely amazing advice. I'm sure they were like, they were so happy to, thanks for like, yeah, thanks for putting into 4 points. It's very great to summarize them. Oh, thanks so much. And you mentioned about the team. I also saw that you work with about 20 people. Is that true? Like Yearn, with Yearn, the Yearn community, with the Yearn team?
Yeah, so Yearn self-appointed their own employees, and they've self-incentivized. So it's not my team, you know, it's not my employees. It's not, I don't really interact with them. Okay. They run the ecosystem in terms of content and marketing and development and monitoring and all of these kinds of things. But yeah, I think last I checked it was about 22 people. I don't know if it's more now. But they self-manage and self-regulate themselves. So there's not a lot I need to do there, fortunately.
How did they come together though? Like, was there like, what was the initial process and getting them on board? Like just like, I guess, self-nomination or whatever, self-designation.
It's so obviously there's let's say there's a community group and there's 1,000 people in it. Mm-hmm. There's a few that are more active than the rest, and you know, mm-hmm. they might do website content, or they might do moderation in the channel, or they might contribute code. And as the rest of the people see these people contribute and consistently contribute, they sort of elevate them to nominate them to be the people that do this. So the community sort of, you know, self-elected these representatives. And because Yearn is in a fortunate position where it's cash flow positive, it's actually making money and not just spending money, the treasury was able to then reward these people for their work with basically mm-hmm. a salary, but it's more like a post-paid salary. You know, you do the work and then you get paid, not you get paid to do the work. So it's really been self-organizing and then self-remuneration that's been able to keep the system going.
Wow.
I don't even personally know anyone that's currently working on the system.
You never met physically, right? Never met the person, people at all.
None of them. And even online, there's only 2 that I've actually ever spoken to online. The rest are just, you know, just doing their thing.
Blue Kirby. Blue Kirby. Like I got to interact with Blue Kirby. I'm getting the hat, by the way. Oh, do you know what? I'm getting a hat from Blue Kirby. A free hat.
That is very awesome. You need to tell him to give you more than just a free hat. I'm sure he's made enough.
I know. I mean, and on the swag, yeah, I'm gonna be shilling Blue Kirby from now on. Wearing but Blue Kirby is working with you as well. No, is it?
He's not in any official way affiliated with Yearn, actually. I have no idea who it is. I've never actually directly spoken to them ever. They just do whatever it is they do, but it seems to be working. So
I know.
It's awesome, and I'm really impressed by the skills and capability of whoever is running that account.
Yes.
But I unfortunately have no clues or interactions with them, so it's very interesting to see.
Oh yeah. Very interesting. It gives me more like interest in finding. Okay, yeah, this is great. And oh yeah, I was curious. I saw that Yearn was supporting ETH Online Hackathon. I think I saw it in your retweet. In terms of that, like if you sponsor an event like that, how does it work? How does the process work? Who decides? Like how does it make a decision?
So there was a governance vote a while back that elected the sort of self-elected people in the community, mm-hmm. and it empowered them with certain executive rights. So within certain treasury limits, they are allowed to decide what they spend on and why they spend on that, and they don't need to get approval. If it's outside of those treasury limits, then they do need approval. So this is just one of the things that falls within those limits. So whoever was responsible for communicating to ETH Online decided it was a good package. They got signed off from the rest of the executive committee because they have a multi-sig that they use to manage the treasury funds, and they paid out to it. So it was again very, very autonomous based on their own actions.
Interesting. Oh, the reason why I ask is, I host events, so I'm just curious. I host a lot of hackathons. Yeah, who knows, right?
Just reach out to any one of the members, and then I'm pretty sure that they'll be happy to sponsor. There's more than enough funds available.
We shall see. Let's see what's going to happen. Now we're coming to an end, but usually it comes with the grand ending, right? What do you see in the Yearn ecosystem in the near future? Like ecosystem in terms of community, partners. I think the partners are still growing, right? The collaborations are growing. What are some important milestones that you wish to achieve, not in the long-term future, but just the near future that you're looking at right now?
I have got zero clue. As I said at the beginning, I'm just a dog chasing cars. There's no vision. There's no plan. It's one of the things that the team actually really doesn't like about me is that I don't know what I'm going to build and release. So I kind of just build it and then release it, and it's a surprise to everyone because I work very isolated. But yeah, so unfortunately, no insights there. But as I come up with new things, I'll just release it.
Yeah, sporadic, right? It's a more sporadic, I guess.
Sporadic.
Awesome. And then lastly, can you share a short message to the Asian or Korean community regarding anything that you want to just blurt out, share with the community?
Yeah, look, I really want to see more active participation. I mean, this is DeFi gaming. I mean, this is a market that, as far as I'm concerned, should be incredibly dominated by the Korean community. People just need to let me know what they need to be more active in participation, and then let's do that. If we need to pull a Korean won stable coin into DeFi, let's do that. But the Western market has played on their own for too long, and I think it's time that we add a new competitor.
Oh, please do. Yeah, we need to put our foot in the game, we have to.
Exactly. Need representation.
Yes. I think a lot of the, as you mentioned in the beginning of the interview, so many, the community members are definitely interested, but I think most are bystanders. They just kind of look and then see what's going to happen, but it's too late then, right? It's too late. So it's a little pity, but.
That's okay. We'll fix it.
Let's fix it. Yes. Thank you so much for your amazing talk, and thank you for your patience and your slow explanation. It's been really helpful for me and for the community, and I really hope to maybe see you in the near future, maybe next year. We'll see how, who knows, after COVID, we'll see how it goes. But thank you so much for your time. I hope to see you maybe next time on another call or something.
Definitely. It was a lot of fun. So just let me know when you need more information, and I'll gladly hop back on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.